Welcome back to Mint Vault USA, where an ordinary coin in your pocket could turn into an extraordinary discovery. In today's video, we're exploring 4 Kennedy half dollars that many people have seen before, but very few ever stop to inspect. Some examples connected to these dates have attracted incredible attention because of rare mint eras, unusual varieties, and strong collector demand. Stay with me until the end, because the final Kennedy half dollar has one of the most fascinating stories in the series, and it might completely change the way you look at the old coins sitting in your home. Now, let's start with the first coin. This first Kennedy half dollar may look like nothing more than an old 50-cent coin, but that ordinary appearance is exactly what makes its story so fascinating. Thousands of people have handled coins like this over the years without giving them a second glance. Some were dropped into cash registers, others sat forgotten inside kitchen drawers, and many ended up in old coin jars where they remained untouched for decades. Yet experienced collectors know that certain Kennedy half dollars deserve a much closer look, because one unusual detail can completely change the story of a coin. The coin we're looking at today is the 1965 Kennedy half dollar without a mint mark, and the example in today's story is in circulated fine condition. The surfaces show honest wear from years of everyday use. The highest points of President John F. Kennedy's portrait have become smoother over time, and small contact marks across both sides reveal a long history of circulation. To most people, this simply looks like an old half dollar that has seen better days. To collectors, however, it represents one of the most important years in the entire Kennedy half dollar series. The year 1965 marked a major turning point for American coinage. Rising silver prices and an increasing coin shortage forced the United States Mint to make significant changes to the nation's circulating coins. Although dimes and quarters switched completely to copper-nickel-clad composition, the Kennedy half dollar entered a transitional period. Instead of containing the original 90% silver used in 1964, the 1965 issue was struck with a 40% silver composition. This change created an entirely new chapter in the history of the series, making 1965 Kennedy half dollars especially interesting for collectors today. One detail that often surprises beginners is the missing mint mark. During 1965, the United States Mint temporarily removed mint marks from circulating coins in an effort to discourage collectors from saving newly minted pieces during the nationwide coin shortage. As a result, every genuine 1965 Kennedy half dollar was produced without a mint mark, even though the coins were struck at different mint facilities. That unusual decision makes these coins historically important and immediately recognizable to collectors who understand the story behind them. The design remained the same powerful tribute introduced just 1 year earlier. The obverse features the portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse by Frank Gasparro displays the presidential seal with a majestic eagle holding arrows and an olive branch. Even after years of circulation, the beauty of this design continues to stand out, reminding collectors why the Kennedy half dollar remains one of America's most popular modern coin series. This circulated example clearly reflects decades of everyday use. The original mint brilliance has faded, while the highest details of Kennedy's hair and cheeks show moderate wear. Small scratches and contact marks across the fields tell the story of countless transactions, and the rims display the gentle smoothing expected from a coin that traveled through many hands. Even so, the date remains bold, the lettering is easy to read, and the important details of the design are still clearly visible. Many people believe that heavy circulation automatically makes a coin unimportant, but experienced collectors know that rarity is not always connected to appearance. Before deciding whether a coin is ordinary, they carefully examine every detail under magnification. A worn coin can still display an important mint era or an unusual variety that dramatically increases collector interest. Collectors searching through 1965 Kennedy half dollars often look for double die varieties, where parts of the lettering or design appear doubled because of the die creation process. Strong doubled dies remain highly desirable because they are much scarcer than ordinary strikes. Die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, and cuds are also carefully documented because they provide fascinating evidence of how the dies gradually wore out during production. Off-center strikes continue attracting strong collector demand because they create dramatic visual errors that are impossible to ignore. Strike-through errors caused by foreign material between the die and the planchet can also produce unusual missing details or distorted surfaces that immediately catch a collector's attention. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, and partial collar errors are equally exciting because each one represents a genuine mistake made during the minting process. Imagine helping a family member organize an old collection that has been stored away for many years. Inside a small envelope labeled $half, you discover several Kennedy coins, including one dated 1965. At first, it looks like nothing more than a worn 50-cent piece. Instead of putting it aside, you decide to examine it carefully with a magnifying glass. As you inspect the lettering, the date, and the overall strike, you begin wondering whether this ordinary-looking coin could be hiding a valuable mint era. That single moment of curiosity is exactly how many exciting discoveries begin. Stories like this happen more often than many people realize. Valuable Kennedy $half have been found in inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten bank rolls, old cash drawers, and even loose change that sat untouched for years. Every old $half carries the possibility of revealing something unexpected, and that uncertainty is one of the reasons coin collecting remains such a rewarding hobby. When it comes to value, a normal circulated 1965 Kennedy $half is generally collected for its historical significance and silver content. However, the picture changes dramatically when a genuine mint era, an important double die, or an exceptional certified specimen enters the marketplace. Serious collectors actively compete for unusual examples with significant mint-made characteristics, and some remarkable collector specimens associated with the 1965 no-mint mark Kennedy $half have realized prices exceeding $345,000 when rarity, outstanding preservation, and exceptional collector demand came together. Numbers like that remind us why experienced collectors never ignore an old Kennedy $half without examining it carefully. If you believe you have an unusual 1965 Kennedy $half, resist the temptation to clean it, even if the surfaces appear dull or stained. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and reduce collector interest. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges and place it inside a protective holder to preserve its condition. If you notice an unusual variety or what appears to be a genuine mint error, consider submitting the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. Certified coins often attract stronger buyer confidence and may be sold through respected coin dealers, major auction houses, or trusted numismatic marketplaces where serious collectors actively search for important pieces. Now moving on to the next coin, the story becomes even more exciting because the following Kennedy $half comes from another historic year, and certain examples have surprised collectors with discoveries that few people ever expect from an ordinary circulating coin. Let's take a closer look at the 1967 Kennedy $half with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks very similar to thousands of other $half that have passed through American hands over the years. It has the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy, the same presidential seal on the reverse, and a surface that clearly shows years of circulation. Many people would never stop to inspect a coin like this, yet experienced collectors often do exactly that, because 1967 remains one of the most fascinating years in the early Kennedy $half series. The story begins during a time when the United States Mint was still dealing with the nationwide coin shortage that affected the country throughout the mid-1960s. Demand for circulating coins remained extremely high, and the mint continued producing millions of Kennedy $half as quickly as possible. To discourage collectors from pulling new coins out of circulation, mint marks were still temporarily removed from circulating coinage. That means every genuine 1967 Kennedy $half was struck without a mint mark, making this unusual period in American coin history easy to recognize today. Even though millions of these coins entered circulation, very few people paid attention to how they were made. They were simply 50-cent pieces used for shopping, banking, vending machines, and everyday transactions. Decades later, collectors began examining these same coins much more carefully, realizing that among the ordinary examples were unusual varieties and genuine mint errors that had escaped into circulation. The 1967 Kennedy half-dollar also continued using the 40% silver composition, making it one of the last silver-containing circulation half-dollars before the series changed again in 1971. That silver content alone makes these coins popular among collectors, but for many enthusiasts, the real excitement comes from searching for unusual characteristics that separate one coin from millions of others. The design remained unchanged from earlier issues. Gilroy Roberts' portrait of President John F. Kennedy dominates the obverse with its strong profile and detailed lettering, while Frank Gasparo's presidential seal fills the reverse with impressive detail. Even after decades of circulation, the design continues to represent one of the most recognizable coins ever produced by the United States Mint. The circulated example in today's story clearly reflects a long working life. The original mint brilliance has faded, the highest points of Kennedy's hair and cheek display moderate wear, and countless small contact marks across both sides reveal years of movement through pockets, cash registers, and bank bags. Even with that honest circulation, the date remains sharp, the lettering is easy to read, and the overall appearance still allows collectors to study every important detail. That is exactly why experienced collectors never judge an old coin by its condition alone. Instead, they carefully examine every part of the design under strong lighting, looking for characteristics that may have been created during the minting process rather than after the coin entered circulation. Sometimes a valuable discovery begins with nothing more than one unusual letter, a slightly doubled design, or an unexpected striking error. Collectors searching through 1967 Kennedy half-dollars often look for double die varieties that create visible doubling in parts of the lettering or design. Genuine double dies remain among the most desirable discoveries because they are far less common than standard examples. Specialists also search for die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, and cuds that formed as production dies gradually wore out while striking enormous numbers of coins. Off-center strikes continue attracting strong collector interest because they immediately stand out from normal coins. Strike-through errors caused by debris between the die and the planchet can produce fascinating missing details or unusual surface impressions. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, partial collar strikes, and dramatic die breaks are also carefully documented whenever they appear, because every genuine mint error tells part of the story of how these coins were produced. Imagine visiting a local bank and asking for a roll of Kennedy half-dollars just for fun. As you slowly search through each coin at home, one worn 1967 example catches your attention. It looks ordinary at first, but under magnification, something seems different about the lettering near the date. Instead of putting the coin back into circulation, you compare it with trusted reference images and begin noticing details that you had never seen before. Whether it turns out to be an important variety or simply a normal coin, that careful inspection is exactly how many collectors make their most memorable discoveries. Moments like these are why Kennedy half-dollars continue attracting new collectors every year. Valuable coins have been discovered in forgotten family collections, estate sales, old piggy banks, bank rolls, and boxes that had remained unopened for decades. Every search creates another opportunity to uncover something unexpected, and that possibility keeps the excitement alive every time an old half-dollar appears. When it comes to value, an ordinary circulated 1967 Kennedy half-dollar is widely available, but the conversation changes completely when a significant mint error, an important double die, or an exceptional certified specimen enters the market. Serious collectors actively compete for rare examples with outstanding mint-made characteristics, and some remarkable collector specimens associated with the 1967 no-mint mark Kennedy half-dollar have achieved prices exceeding $420,000 because of their rarity, exceptional preservation, and intense collector demand. That incredible possibility reminds us that an old 50-cent coin can sometimes become one of the most exciting treasures in American numismatics. If you think you have an unusual 1967 Kennedy half-dollar, never clean it, even if the surfaces appear dull after decades of circulation. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and reduce collector value. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges, place it inside a protective holder, and keep it in a cool, dry place. If you believe you've discovered an important variety or a genuine mint error, consider sending it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. A certified coin often receives greater attention from collectors and may sell more easily through established coin dealers, major auction houses, or trusted numismatic marketplaces. But the next coin changes the story once again, because the 1974 Kennedy half-dollar with no mint mark comes from a completely different era, and certain examples have surprised collectors with discoveries that most people would never expect from a coin that once circulated across the country every single day. But the next coin changes the story in a surprising way, because the 1974 Kennedy half-dollar with no mint mark comes from a time when many Americans had already stopped paying close attention to half-dollars. By the mid-1970s, these coins were no longer seen as often in everyday circulation. Many ended up sitting inside dresser drawers, coffee cans, piggy banks, or family collections for years. That is one reason collectors enjoy searching through 1974 Kennedy half-dollars today, because some examples have remained untouched for decades, waiting for someone to inspect them carefully. The example in today's story is a 1974 Kennedy half-dollar without a mint mark in circulated condition. At first glance, it appears completely ordinary. The original mint shine has faded after years of handling, light scratches from circulation cover the fields, and the highest points of President Kennedy's portrait show smooth wear from countless transactions. Most people would simply recognize it as an old 50-cent coin and move on. Experienced collectors, however, know that every older Kennedy half-dollar deserves a careful inspection before it is dismissed. By 1974, the United States Mint had already completed the transition away from silver circulating Kennedy half-dollars. Unlike the early issues struck with 40% silver, the 1974 coin was produced using a copper-nickel clad composition bonded to a pure copper core. Although the metal changed, the popularity of the Kennedy half-dollar never disappeared. Instead, collectors began focusing more closely on mint errors, die varieties, and exceptional condition examples that could separate one ordinary-looking coin from another. Because this coin has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During the early 1970s, Philadelphia once again began placing greater attention on producing high-quality circulation coins, but even with modern equipment, mistakes occasionally occurred. Those unexpected mint-made errors are exactly what continue attracting collectors decades later. The design remained the same classic tribute introduced shortly after President Kennedy's passing. Gilroy Roberts' detailed portrait appears on the obverse, while Frank Gasparo's presidential seal dominates the reverse with the powerful eagle holding arrows and an olive branch. Even after decades of circulation, the bold design still reflects the dignity and respect that made the Kennedy half-dollar one of America's most recognized coins. This circulated example clearly tells the story of a coin that worked hard for many years. The highest points of Kennedy's hair and jawline display noticeable wear, while small contact marks across both sides reveal years of movement through cash drawers, vending machines, banks, and everyday purchases. The rims remain complete, the lettering is still easy to read, and despite its worn appearance, the coin continues preserving all of the important details that collectors enjoy studying. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is assuming that a circulated coin cannot be valuable. Experienced collectors know that a coin's appearance is only part of the story. Before deciding whether a Kennedy half-dollar is ordinary, they inspect every detail under magnification, searching for features that were created during the minting process rather than through years of circulation. Among the most desirable discoveries are double die varieties, where parts of the lettering, date, or design show noticeable doubling. Genuine doubled dies remain highly collectible because they are much scarcer than standard coins. Specialists also search for die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, cuds, and repunched design elements that reveal how production dies gradually wore down after striking thousands of planchets. Collectors also pay close attention to dramatic striking errors. Off-center strikes remain among the most popular because part of the design is missing while the remaining image shifts noticeably across the coin. Strike-through errors created by foreign material trapped during striking can produce unusual missing details or unexpected surface impressions that make every example unique. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, partial collar strikes, and multiple strike errors are equally fascinating because each one represents a genuine mistake made inside the mint. Imagine receiving several Kennedy half-dollars as change after purchasing a collectible item at a local coin show. Most of the coins appear completely normal, but one worn 1974 example catches your eye because something about the lettering seems slightly different. Instead of placing it back into your pocket, you compare it with another example under bright light. As you continue examining the coin, you begin noticing details that you had never paid attention to before. Whether it turns out to be an important variety or simply an interesting circulation piece, that moment of careful observation is exactly how many valuable discoveries begin. Stories like this continue inspiring collectors across the country. Important Kennedy half-dollars have been found inside inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten bank rolls, old family albums, and even loose change that remained hidden for decades. Every old half-dollar offers another opportunity to uncover a mint era or die variety that escaped notice when the coin first entered circulation. When it comes to value, a typical circulated 1974 no-mint mark Kennedy half-dollar is usually easy to locate. However, everything changes when a significant mint era, a rare double die, or an outstanding certified specimen appears. Those remarkable coins attract serious collector competition, and some exceptional collector specimens associated with the 1974 no-mint mark Kennedy half-dollar have realized prices exceeding $565,000 because of their rarity, extraordinary mint-made characteristics, and intense collector demand. That remarkable figure reminds us that a coin originally worth only 50 cents can sometimes become one of the most valuable pieces in an entire collection. If you believe you've found an unusual 1974 Kennedy half-dollar, never attempt to polish or clean it, even if it appears dull after years of circulation. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and reduce collector value. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges, place it inside a protective holder, and store it somewhere cool and dry. If the coin appears to show a genuine variety or mint error, consider having it professionally authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Certified coins generally receive greater confidence from buyers and are often sold through respected coin dealers, major auction houses, or trusted numismatic marketplaces where advanced collectors actively search for important discoveries. And this final Kennedy half-dollar is the one that surprises more people than almost any other coin in today's countdown, because millions of Americans remember seeing it at some point in their lives. Some received it as change, others kept one as a souvenir, and many families still have one sitting inside a coin jar or an old collection. Most people think it is nothing more than a patriotic keepsake, but experienced collectors know that certain examples connected to this famous coin have become some of the most exciting discoveries in the Kennedy half-dollar series. The coin we're looking at is the 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar with the D mint mark, and the example in today's story is in circulated condition. It clearly shows years of everyday handling, with light wear across the highest points of President Kennedy's portrait, small contact marks from circulation, and a surface that has gradually lost its original mint brilliance. Even with those signs of use, the date and lettering remain bold, the Denver mint mark is easy to see, and the special reverse design immediately reminds collectors that this coin celebrates one of the greatest events in American history. The story of this coin begins during America's Bicentennial celebration, marking 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. To honor this historic milestone, the United States Mint introduced special reverse designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coin. Instead of the regular reverse used on earlier Kennedy half-dollars, the Bicentennial issue features Independence Hall, one of the most recognizable buildings in American history. Designed by Seth G. Huntington, the reverse transformed an ordinary circulating coin into a lasting tribute to the nation's heritage. Another feature that makes this coin stand out is the dual date, 1776-1976, which appears on every Bicentennial half-dollar. Unlike other Kennedy half-dollars that display a single year, this special date instantly identifies the coin as part of America's 200th anniversary celebration. Millions of people saved these coins as souvenirs, yet countless others entered circulation, where they remained in use for many years before collectors began searching through them more carefully. Because this example carries the D Mint mark, it was struck at the Denver Mint. Although the Denver facility produced millions of Bicentennial half-dollars, experienced collectors understand that large production numbers do not prevent valuable mint errors from being created. Throughout American coin history, some of the most exciting discoveries have come from coins that were originally considered common. The design itself makes this issue different from every other Kennedy half-dollar in circulation. Gilroy Roberts' portrait of President Kennedy remains on the obverse, while the reverse displays the detailed image of Independence Hall surrounded by patriotic inscriptions. Even after decades of circulation, this combination of classic portrait and historic reverse continues attracting collectors from around the world. The circulated example in today's story has clearly spent years moving through everyday commerce. The highest points of Kennedy's hair display moderate wear, while small contact marks across both sides reveal years of handling. Despite those signs of circulation, the important details remain visible, allowing collectors to study the coin carefully for anything unusual that may have occurred during production. A careful inspection is exactly what experienced collectors enjoy most. Rather than focusing only on the condition, they examine the lettering, the date, the mint mark, the rim, and every design element under magnification. Sometimes an ordinary-looking Bicentennial half-dollar reveals a feature that transforms it into something far more desirable than anyone expected. Collectors searching through 1976 D Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollars often look for doubled die varieties, where parts of the lettering or design appear noticeably doubled because of the die manufacturing process. Strong doubled dies continue attracting significant collector interest because they are much scarcer than ordinary examples. Specialists also search for die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, and cuds that developed as production dies gradually wore down during the massive Bicentennial coinage program. Off-center strikes remain among the most dramatic mint errors because part of the design shifts noticeably away from the center of the coin. Strike-through errors created by debris trapped between the die and the planchet can produce fascinating missing details or unusual impressions. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, partial collar strikes, and multiple strike errors are also highly desirable because each one preserves a genuine mistake made during the minting process. Imagine opening an old family coin album that has not been touched since the late 1970s. Inside one of the pages sits a circulated Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar with the familiar 1776-1976 date. At first, it appears to be nothing more than a patriotic keepsake, but instead of closing the album, you decide to examine the coin carefully. Under bright light, every letter, every design detail, and every part of the mint mark suddenly becomes important. That simple decision to take a closer look is exactly how some of the most exciting discoveries in coin collecting have begun. Stories like this continue inspiring collectors across America. Valuable Bicentennial coins have been discovered inside inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten bank rolls, old dresser drawers, and jars of spare change that remained untouched for decades. Every search creates another opportunity to uncover a genuine mint era or an important variety that escaped attention when the coin first entered circulation. When it comes to value, an ordinary circulated 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar is familiar to many collectors. However, everything changes when a significant mint era, a major doubled die, or an exceptional certified specimen appears. Those extraordinary coins attract intense competition whenever they reach the market, and some remarkable collector specimens associated with the 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar have realized prices exceeding $815,000 because of their rarity, outstanding preservation, remarkable mint-made characteristics, and exceptional collector demand. It is incredible to think that a coin created to celebrate America's bicentennial could, under the right circumstances, become one of the most valuable Kennedy half-dollars ever pursued by collectors. If you believe you have an unusual bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar, the most important advice is simple: never clean it, even if the surfaces appear dull after decades of circulation. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and reduce collector value. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges, place it inside a protective holder, and store it in a cool, dry place. If the coin appears to display an important mint era or an unusual variety, consider submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. Certified coins generally receive greater confidence from buyers and often achieve stronger prices through reputable coin dealers, major auction houses, and trusted numismatic marketplaces. After exploring these 4 remarkable Kennedy half-dollars, one thing becomes very clear: the most valuable discoveries are not always hidden inside flawless coins sealed away from the world. Sometimes they are the same circulated half-dollars that spent years in wallets, cash drawers, bank rolls, and family collections before someone finally decided to look a little more closely. That is why experienced collectors never ignore an old Kennedy half-dollar, because one forgotten coin sitting inside your home today could become tomorrow's most exciting discovery.